On a special Monday, Buffy, a powerful evil has taken control.
Enough said. I propose Buffy slays him. All in favor?
Aye.
Everyone Buffy knows is falling victim.
Do we really want to go in there?
We really don't.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of Slay the Buffyverse Revisited. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Jeremy.
I'm your other host, James.
And I may have had a small stroke there at the beginning. I don't know.
Wow.
You know me, I like to be as ridiculous as I can possibly be.
That's fine. Nothing wrong with that.
And I think
Nothing
I
wrong
succeed
with that.
in that regard.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So what's up, James? What's new? How's life?
Same old,
Same old.
I'm enjoying my time. But I don't know if anyone that watches on YouTube has noticed my background shift here over the last few episodes. I'm spending a few months up in Michigan with family, so enjoying my time up here in Michigan.
Yeah, your lighting has been a lot better since you've been in Michigan.
I've noticed that too. I think I'm gonna have to cave in and get a ring light for.
Yeah, I've got one, but I don't actually need to use it.
No.
If I was trying to be, I'm also not pulling 4K video. Where I'm not pulling 4K video here. If I was trying to do 4K and looks uber super professional, I would have to do a completely different setup and use the ring lights and stuff. But it's just a podcast, and I just don't give a fuck.
Right. Yeah,
this was just going to be an audio thing anyway, and
so, yeah. I've contemplated getting a ring light or some sort of better direct lighting for the setup back home. But yeah, there's actually like old school classroom warehouse fluorescent lighting above me.
So, are you it would appear that you were in a subterranean environment.
I am in a subterranean environment. I'm in a basement.
Okay, yep. So you're down there in Angel's crib.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You and Angel.
Yes. So something I found while I was looking around the basement the other day, and this is apropos of for last week's episode. I wish I had found it sooner. This old hat of my grandfather's.
The Regal Beagle, baby.
The Regal Beagle.
Mr. John Ritter's Hangout.
Yes, for the bar on Three's Company that they frequented.
If you don't wear that on a regular basis from now on, I will be deeply disappointed. I would sport that daily.
I would wear it during the podcast, but it doesn't really go over my headphones.
Yeah,
very well.
That could be. Well, that's not too bad.
That's a look there.
As long as you're repping the Regal Beagle, I don't think anybody's too worried about it.
I'll put it. Let's see. I'll get it in frame behind me over here.
Okay. So at least we know that it's there.
Yeah. There we go. It's it's set dressing. So
it's set dressing. I didn't even give the normal intro I normally do. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be jumping into season 2, episode 12, Bad Eggs. So again, yes. I hate to spoil things. Obviously a werewolf episode.
Yes. Jumping into like a Bozar laying eggs.
Okay. Yeah. And do I have so many questions about that by the time we get to it. Needless to say, spoiler alert, I didn't hate this episode, but boy, do I have questions.
Yeah. Same. All right. Well, if you're ready, I know I'm ready. How about if I
for some juicy, delicious, somewhat mouth-watering dates and beans?
I'm going to feed them to you.
Okay.
Now.
Let's do it.
As previously stated, we are reviewing Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 2, Episode 12, the 24th episode of the series overall, Bad Eggs. Our episode director this week is David Greenwalt. And our episode credited writer is Marty Noxon.
McFly?
Noxon.
Oh, Noxon. Okay, I'm sorry. I misheard.
Our original air date was January 12th, 1998 on the now defunct WB network. Our regular cast, as always, includes Sarah Michelle Gellar as Buffy, Nicholas Brendan as Xander, Allison Hannigan as Willow, Charisma Carpenter as Cordelia, David Boreanaz as Angel, and Anthony Stewart Head as Giles. Our guest stars this week include Kristen Sutherland as Joyce, Danny Strong as Jonathan, Jeremy Ratchford as Lyle Gorch, James Parks as Tector Gorch, and Rick Zeef as Mr. Whitmore. Our episode synopsis this week reads, Buffy and her friends find something peculiar about a school assignment on parenting, and two vampires come looking for Buffy.
Huh, okay. Mine says Buffy and her friends encounter even more trouble than expected when the eggs they are given in health class turn out to be prehistoric parasites that take over their lives. Not really sure how accurate that is. As far as prehistoric parasites, I don't, so many questions.
Well, that is what they refer to it in the episode as.
Oh, okay. I don't recall that.
Yeah.
I was probably asleep during that part of the episode. I mean, this was one of those episodes where it was difficult. There were certain points where I was like, wow, if this doesn't speed up soon, I'm quitting the podcast. Wow. And this is just going to be the show of James.
Wow. It'd just be me each week giving a rundown of Buffy and then telling everybody what I liked about it. It would get so boring. Sometimes I think we...
No, go ahead.
Sometimes I think we should introduce a third host.
Yeah, that we can like shove off all the shit onto and be like, so what did you think about that, Bill? And we'll just sit back and go to sleep. Yeah, this was definitely another, for me, I mean, this was another Bad Day in Building A episode.
So I don't think it was that bad.
No, there were what I mean, I should be more specific and say there were sections of it where it was a Bad Day in Building A for me, and I was ready to, like, I was getting heavy eyelidded. I was like, oh god, if this doesn't hurry up, I'm quitting the podcast.
Well, in that case, we better zip through this, and I will jump into the cold open here, where we open at the Sunnydale Mall, and we're watching people walk through the mall, and we come upon Buffy and Joyce, who have clearly been doing some shopping, and Buffy's begging her mom for an outfit, and Joyce has put her foot down and told her she's not getting the outfit. And this brief exchange here is apropos to to our thoughts on Joyce.
Yeah, and what was the exact reason she gave Buffy for not being able to wear the outfit, James?
So Buffy says, "But I looked good in it," and Joyce says, "You looked like a streetwalker."
Yeah, and I was like, oh, mother doesn't want daughter creeping in on her business. Is that what we're talking about here?
So,
wow.
So Joyce puts the kibosh on the outfit and gives her a receipt for a department store to go pick up a dress for her that she had previously ordered. And they part ways. Joyce is going to go finish up the rest of her shopping and get their food while Buffy goes and gets this outfit for Joyce. So Buffy's on her way, heads over there, and she's heading down the escalators, and she's looking around, and she sees a guy in a cowboy hat and his girlfriend coming up the escalator, and she keeps looking around, and then all of a sudden notices that our cowboy's reflection is missing from the mirrors on that line the escalator. So she turns around and heads back up the escalator after them. and we see that they head down one of the walkways in the mall and turn a corner, and Buffy's in hot pursuit, and we end up in a arcade, and the cowboy and his girlfriend are in the arcade, and they're talking, and she's playing one of the machines, a pinball game, I believe it is, and our cowboy is now in vamp face, and he moves in for a bite, and Buffy interrupts them, and the girl turns and looks at the cowboy, and sees his vamp face and runs off, and Buffy and the vampire end up fighting, and he gets away, and Buffy
after breaking Buffy's neck and killing her.
He gets away, and we cut to the food court, and Buffy shows up minus Joyce's outfit, and they have a brief little exchange where Joyce asks Buffy if she ever thinks of anything other than clothes and boys, and Buffy says saving the world from vampires, and Joyce is like, I sometimes just don't know what's going on in your head. And we cut to our credits. That's our cold open.
That is our cold open. And just to go back for a second, the vampire she's fighting introduces himself as Lyle Gorch.
Oh, I did miss that part. Sorry.
Yeah, and he is a what is the term I'm looking for? Filthy hillbilly.
No,
yeah,
stop
he really
that.
is. He really is.
He's a cowboy.
Yeah, but I think they're playing up the fact that he's supposed to be this dumb hick or whatever, whatever word you want to use. They're playing that up like he's the quintessential version of that is what they're going for,
Right.
But anyway, yeah, we come back from the cold open, and it's the next day at school, and Xander and Cordy are making out hot and heavy in the closet once again.
Smoochies.
And as usual, they ruin the moment by going at it, arguing with each other. Xander wants Cordelia to stop talking. Cordelia wants the lights off because she doesn't want to look at Xander. They're both like, little bitches, basically. And so they're like, yeah, fuck this. And they both reach for the doorknob to leave at the same time. They touch hands, and they go back to kissing, and they sink down out of camera sight. And that's that scene. Then we are now in health class, which I don't believe we've ever been in health class before, have we? In any of these episodes? I don't believe so. Nope. And Mr. Whitmore, this goober-looking fellow, is teaching about sex and the sex drive and how it affects teens and whatnot. Yeah.
Oh my.
And he's asking the class for like, what are some negative results of having sex? And Cordelia and Xander are going back and forth giving like negative things about the other person, and everybody's like, what the fuck? And then finally, Willow, Ms. Rosenberg, raises her hand and says, well, pregnancy, isn't that that's a bad one, right? That's an unwanted thing. And he's like, yeah, and that brings us to our class project. And he pulls a little towel away, and underneath that is a couple of cartons of eggs, which I think anybody who's ever had middle school or high school health classes had to do this stupid project at one point. You get an egg and you get a partner, and you guys have to take care of this egg and blah, 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 blah. It's really a stupid thing. Yes, James. Yes, you may speak. Yes.
We did not partake of this in high
Really?
school.
Really?
Really.
I can't
Really.
remember if I did do this, but I can't remember if it was middle school, like 8th grade, or if it was maybe 9th or 10th grade in high school. I can't remember, but we did partake in this, and it was fucking stupid. So, um, where did I leave off? Yeah, okay, so they get the eggs, and Xander goes to immediately partner up with Cordelia, but she sees him coming and immediately partners up with someone else. So then Xander just partners up with some rando we never see again. We don't even hear a line from her. They didn't want to pay her the $250. I think she just giggles a little bit.
Yeah, she giggles awkwardly at Xander.
Yeah, like really awkwardly, like almost like she maybe isn't in control of her faculties. I don't know. She's like, I was like, what the fuck is that?
I took it more as a flirtatious giggle. I think she might have had herself a thing for our buddy Xander.
That, or I didn't know if it was that or if she had like pooped her pants or something. I didn't know what was happening. So Willow's a little let down because Xander, she went to go like partner up with Xander, and he kind of left her hanging. So Willow's like, wah 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 wah.
Mhm.
Oh, so after class, Willow and Xander, they have their eggs and they go to the library and they find Buffy, and because she wasn't in class, and they heavily berate her for this, and Xander actually hits Buffy at one point for not coming to class. All right, he doesn't, and so they describe what what she missed, and Mr. Whitmore sent us gave us this egg to give to you, and she's like, what the fuck do I need an egg for? And they explain the whole thing to her, and of course she's terrified by the whole thing, and she's terrible at taking care of things, and then she also finds out there was an odd number of students, so being she wasn't in class, she's the one who doesn't get a partner. So she's like, oh fuck, I'm a single mom too. And then she brings up, she's like, oh, like my mother, and I was like, whoa, why don't you just be like my whore mother? She like made it sound really bad, like that, or you know what I mean? I was like, damn, that was a little bitey.
But
Oh, go ahead.
I was to say, but extreme foreshadowing, as I'm fairly certain in the Buffy comics, as they continued after the series ended, Buffy becomes a single mother.
Oh, really? I did not
Yeah.
read any of the. I know they did a season 8, season 9, season 10, and they did the same with like Angel, but I just couldn't be bothered to try to keep up with it in that media.
Yeah.
But anyway, they explained the whole thing, yada yada. I forgot to mention she had told them she wasn't in class because she was doing some vampire research there in the library with Mr. Yiles, with involving the hillbilly vampire she ran into at the mall. And so Giles comes out of the book cage finally, and almost crushes Buffy's egg with a book. And then he's like, what are you doing with an egg? And they're like, fuck you, dude. And then they hit him in the head with a fucking ratchet, and he just goes down, and he's out for the rest of the episode. No. Yeah. Anyway, he says he hit the jackpot. He figured out who this guy is. Somehow. I mean, what do you like? What did he look up in one of the books? Was he like, let's see, filthy hillbilly vampire? But somehow he found them, and it's actually two of them. They're brothers, one named Lyle and one named Tector. That's right, Tector. I don't know who made that name up on the writing staff, but what the fuck, Tector? I have never heard that before, after, during. I've never heard of it in a dream, in a drug-induced stupor. I mean, Tector.
Really, you've never heard those names?
Lyle, yes, but Tector.
Okay, well then
Have you heard of it?
You're gonna love our behind. I have, and you're gonna love our behind the scenes for this
Had you
episode.
really though before you looked up the
Yes.
behind the scenes? I've never
Yes.
heard that Tector in my life. It just seems like something somebody made up. Okay, anyway.
You're not
He
a
says
fan of Western, are you? You're not a fan of Westerns, are you?
a few. There's a few that I'm a huge fan of, but I would say, like in general, no. Like that's not a big. I'm not watching a lot of John Wayne flicks, if that's what you mean. No. Anyway, he says these Gorch brothers made a name for themselves, massacring an entire Mexican village in the 1800s. And they did that before they were even vampires, so they were pieces of shit in life and in undeath. Of course, Giles says they're not really big thinkers, so they probably don't have a master plan. And but he does say that they're strong, so Buffy shouldn't, fight them alone or underestimate them. And where did I leave? Oh yeah, that Willow and Buffy. Well, I should say, with Willow's help, Buffy decides to ask Angel for help, and Giles agrees, and Xander thinks that's a bad idea because he thinks they'll just be doing nothing but smooching the whole time rather than slaying. And Buffy tells him to grow up. She and Angel are not simply slaves to their passion. And the very next scene, Buffy and Angel are in the graveyard together, and they are smooching hot and heavy.
They are sucking major face.
Yes, face sucking is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And the Gorch brothers are watching them the whole time from a distance, up on they're kind of perched up on a wall, and they're discussing the whole situation. And
literally, like, I laughed at this. They're literally like not even 20 feet away from Buffy and Angel.
Yeah, and they're perfectly illuminated underneath a street light.
Right, and Buffy and Angel are both like, "Oh, there's nothing going on here.
Nothing happening here." And so somehow or another, they know who Angel is, because the one brother's like, "Ain't that Angelus?" The way he said it just cracked me up, and I was like, He's like, "Ain't that Angelus?" And then the other brother was like, "Yeah." And well, we should kill him. But Lyle, who's the original one we saw at the beginning, he's apparently the brains of the operation and the leader. And he says no, they'll let it stay for now, and because he's got a plan. And Tector, Mr. Tector, thinks he's just scared and blah blah blah, and Lyle kills him immediately. Or no, Lyle doesn't kill him, but he's like, "Fuck you, bro." And that's the end of that scene. And later that night, Buffy's filling out her egg diary. Apparently, you have to fill out an egg diary. I don't recall that part from when we did it, but because none of it makes any sense. It's like feeding, and she's like, "Okay, check." And then she's like burping, and she goes, check. What was the other one? Oh, change the diaper, and she goes, "Well, technically, check." And
yeah, it was really
stupid.
Yeah,
just dumb. Yeah. And then she puts it's in this little basket with like a little blanket around it to protect it, and she pats it and says, "Well, good night, Egbert," and clicks off her lamp and goes to sleep, and is immediately killed by a vampire who had been hiding in her room the whole time. No. All seems well until about 2:00 in the morning, and Egbert begins to shake in his little basket and begins to hatch. But rather than a beak or anything like that coming out, this nasty long...
It's a velociraptor.
Yeah, it's a velociraptor. It's like this nasty long finger comes out. It's like this tendril, and it starts working its way towards Buffy. And it's like in her ears and on her face and shit, and it's just creepy as fuck. And we cut to commercial right then.
And when we come back, we are engaged in some hardcore live action hentai.
Okay.
It is
porn. Okay.
It is. It It was really weird for 97. 98. 98.
And this hand thing, this fingered hand thing, all I could think of was, do you remember those little things from the 80s you would get in like the little plastic egg, and it looked like a hand,
and it was sticky,
and it was sticky, and it would stick to shit. That's all I could think of. That's what it looked like.
Yeah.
And so, so when we come back, we're in the sewers, and Lyle and Tector are chilling out in the sewers and eating rats, and Lyle is laying down with like his hat over his face trying to sleep, but he can't because Tector keeps complaining and bitching and moaning and hates being in Sunnydale and blah blah blah, and he's asking him all these questions about Angel and why he's cuddled up with the Slayer and why they aren't killing the Slayer. And finally Lyle's like, you're driving me crazy. Are you gonna drive me crazy all fucking day? And Tector's basically, is like, yeah. And Lyle's like, ain't I the one that practically raised you, boy? And he does.
No, I know.
And I was like, oh. And anyway,
because here's the thing, like, so they burned down that Mexican village in 1886, and they weren't even vampires yet then.
Right.
So they've had roughly 120 years,
120
give
years.
or take.
Yeah.
To like fucking lose the accents.
Yeah. And lose the filthiness, because Tector looks even dirtier than Lyle. Like he's got this this duster on, and his face is just covered in dirt. Like, I don't know. It bugs me, but so they decide they're gonna have a friendly fisticuff fight, and so they just start punching each other in the face, and we just cut away. That's literally that scene. They're just like, okay, let's punch each other in the face now. Okay.
Well, that's how you and I usually resolve our differences.
Right. I'm like, all right, that's it. Punch me in the face now.
we just punch each other in the face until we're tired.
Yeah. Or one of us has brain damage.
Right. Neither one of us has ever actually won an argument. We've just punched each other until
somebody ends up just getting knocked unconscious, and
right. And then that's the end of it.
Yeah, we call it a day. So then we cut to back to Buffy, and her alarm's going off for that morning. And here's one of these things that's never explained. Her egg is back to normal. It's back to looking like it did before.
Yeah. It makes absolutely no sense in the context of everything that comes after this.
Yeah, I know. I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah.
It's like they had this idea, and then they were just like, fuck it. And they just went off on another tangent. But
see, to me, I took it. I thought something similar to you, but I was like, I bet, like they wanted a way to show that these eggs are not actually eggs, or eggs as we would think of them, and they weren't satisfied with just like showing the egg moving or something like that.
Yeah.
So then they did this whole tentacle thing,
which is what they should have done, was just made it subtle and made the egg, vibrate and move around some. Then you'd be like, oh, something's going on with this egg,
Right. But they wanted to be extra about it.
They needed to use some money for the budget, so they were like, okay, let's get one of those sticky hands from the 80s. So anyway, she wakes up and she's kind of feeling weird, it seems, and she dresses and grabs her egg and heads down to the kitchen where Mom is, and she immediately starts drinking some of Mom's coffee, and she's like, well, if you're going to drink that, at least eat something. And I'm like, it's not like it's fucking vodka. Christ, she took a couple sips of fucking coffee. What's your problem, lady? You need to go back out and work the corners. You're obviously, you haven't been around for a while, so now you're trying to overdo it. We're going to hell. So they talk a little bit, and
but but at the same time, you're kind of right. Like, we haven't seen a whole lot of Joyce Like,
And in this
I mean,
episode, she is like hardcore bitch mom.
right. Like, I mean, we got a lot of Joyce last week because the episode was kind of Joyce centric.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, Joyce isn't around a whole lot. And then she comes back. She's in the majority of this episode too. And she is hardcore, like being like overbearing bitch mom. She fucking grounds Buffy like 3 times.
Yeah. Even at the
in
end
this
of the episode, after she's basically saved the world again, she's like, "Oh, you are such a little shit. Don't you ever come out of your room again."
Right.
And I'm like, "Fuck, Buffy, just kick her, like Slayer kick her head. Just put her in a coma, and your life will be so much easier." But anyway, so Buffy grabs a piece of toast and grabs her egg and heads off to school. She's just not feeling quite right, she says. And as she leaves, she tosses a grenade into the kitchen and takes care of Joyce finally. And everybody's like, yes!
Buffy does say something in this scene when Joyce is questioning her about her egg. Buffy looks at her and she says, "Did I ask for backseat mommying?"
Right, right.
I don't know why, but
like,
that was
and
hysterical.
Joyce is like, how'd she say that? Somebody wake up on the wrong side of the bed or something. And I was like, you got a lot of room to talk. You've been a bitch already in this episode.
Right.
You know, for no reason. I'm just going to be a bitch this episode. So anyway, we cut to the school and Giles is shelving some books near the entrance of the stacks, and he's kind of surprised to see Buffy, Xander, and Willow all standing at the bottom of the stairs with eggs in their hands, of course, and he's like, basically, why the fuck are you here? Like, do I ever get some free time?
I would be surprised too, because honestly, when the camera panned around the bookshelf to them, it was creepy as fuck.
Yeah, he was like, God damn, I was trying to jerk off here. I mean, you could have fucking not. He literally had his pants down to his fucking ankles.
He's just going at it with an open, like,
It's like got a 70s health book.
No, it's one of the ancient like Watcher texts with like hand-drawn pictures.
Hand-drawn porno on it. So anyway, now we know why no one listens to this podcast. So anyway, and he's like, well, does anybody want to help? And both Buffy and Willow are like, no. And they mean it. They literally just say no and sit down on the steps. And Xander's like, yeah, okay, I'll help. I'm not a dick. So he goes up to help. And
except he is a dick.
Yeah, exactly. But in this one episode, he gets to be not the dick. And Giles asks about the hunt from the night before, and Buffy's just really sluggish and kind of just not really into talking or communicating. And Willow's pretty much the same way. And Xander says that, they must have exhausted themselves by worrying too much about their eggs, and he pulls out his own and he's tossing it around and throwing it, and they're all like, Xander, what do you do? You're crazy. And then he fucking drops it and it hits the ground and nothing happens. And they're like, why didn't the egg break? Well, turns out he had boiled the fucking thing to which I'm like, so what? If he had dropped it on that fucking floor, the shell would have cracked all to hell. But it hit the floor like a rock. So I'm like, okay. So anyway, he's boiled his eggs so that he can't accidentally fucking crush it. I'm like, well, what happens when you turn the fucking thing in? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But Xander doesn't tend to think ahead a lot, so
you would replace it with another fresh unboiled egg.
Right. See, when we did this shit, I remember our teacher writing her initials on the bottom of every egg so that you couldn't like fuck yours up and then just swap it out for one at home, So yeah, we'll just pretend that didn't happen here. And Giles points out that it's cheating and blah blah blah, and which I don't get it. Like, Xander gives a fuck. Like he's gonna feel ashamed of himself,
right? Right.
And about that time, Cordelia bursts in, And I've actually got a clip here. I think it was kind of funny, this little exchange here. So I'm going to play the clip.
Please do.
You three would all be hanging in a dungeon while something major's going on at Sunnydale High.
And what would that be, Cordelia? Red Appreciation Day?
Mr. Whitmore didn't show today.
That news is of the past.
He's missing? Presumed dead?
Presumed by whom?
Well, me.
I think we should give him a few hours before we give up on him completely.
Well, I think we should look around, don't you, Xander?
It can wait.
Well, his body could fall out of a closet somewhere. So we should check some closets to see if he's in a closet.
You're right. There could be a closet. Let's go. You guys look for more clues. We'll meet back here.
We'll get right on it.
Are they getting weirder? You notice the weirdness of them?
They're weird.
They are weird. And that makes me remember, I did forget to mention at the beginning of this scene that they're all there in the library because Mr. Whitmore is not at school today. And therefore, I'm like, wait a minute. When I didn't have a teacher at school, didn't mean we just got to go roam the fucking school. We'd have a substitute, but apparently class is canceled. Just go roam the school and do whatever you'd like to do, children. Just don't fucking don't go on any mass shootings. Oh yeah, this is 98. So this is before that became a fucking thing. So anyway, yeah, she basically came in just to get Xander so they could go to a closet somewhere and make out. Which I'm like, is that really all they're doing? You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking he's at least finger banging the shit out of her, right?
I mean,
like he's 3 or 4 knuckles deep, right? I mean, am I just?
I don't.
Okay, I'm just saying.
I don't know.
I mean, these are high school kids. These are 20-something, 30-something year olds playing high schoolers. So, let's be honest here. Anyway. Giles. Oh yeah. So they decide. Well, I should say, Giles decides that Buffy should go hunting again that night, and Willow notices that Giles tells her to concentrate on the Gorges instead of worrying about Mr. Whitmore, conserve her strength, because she's like not even into going and trying to find him. She's like, ah, fuck him. He's just a day player. He's only here for 1 episode. And Buffy, she thinks she'll be feeling strong enough to patrol that night. And of course, Angel will be there. So that night, she and Angel are making out again in the cemetery. And I'm like, can you just go to his house and make out like can't you go do a hunt and then maybe go to his house and finger bang or whatever the fuck you're doing? Like, I don't understand why this has to happen during the hunt. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but
okay.
Aren't you? You're not sexually excited by cemeteries?
No, and that brings up another good point. I'm like, of all places, especially for her, like somebody who's constantly having to be there to like kill undead fucking creatures. It's like, I'd be like, you know what? How about we at least go to a fucking, I don't know, a bus stop or something, anywhere but this fucking cemetery, I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
2 birds, 1 stone.
That's true, I guess. But they never do any slaying. They're just constantly making out.
That's true.
So I don't know.
That's true.
She kind of pulls away and insists that they hunt. But Angel can tell that she's not quite on her game, and he kind of insists that she go home and get some rest. And he says he'll stay and hunt for the Gorges. And Buffy's actually kind of relieved and happy to hear this. And so she still has to do her egg diary for the night. I'm like, oh yeah, that'll take 2 fucking seconds. Check. Egg diary done. Thank God Angel sent me home earlier. I never would have finished this in time. Just sorry. Angel asks her what she's talking about, and she explains to him it's this faux parenting project, and she thinks the whole thing's ridiculous. She has no plans of having kids anytime soon, and of course, and then they go into the kid discussion about how he can't ever have kids. Spoiler, he does later on. Um, but but you know, vampires can't have kids and blah 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 unless you're Angel, and you have your own television series, and they run out of ideas. So in a certain season, you have one, but they and he's like, you know, doesn't that bother you, you know, for the future? And of course, she's like, no, the only thing that matters to me is that you're in my future. And he's like, oh, and then they start making out again, and that scene ends, thankfully. Now, here's my favorite fucking scene of the well, this is my second favorite scene of the whole fucking episode, and I'll explain why. But so then we cut to the high school, back to school, and it's nighttime, you know, school's out and everything. And there's a security guard patrolling, which number one, no.
Thank you.
No.
I thought the same thing. I was like, what school has a security guard?
Prior to this is 1998. Now today you
Right.
have SWAT fucking people walking around.
Right, but
But-
not after school hours.
And certainly not after school hours. Yes. I
Right.
mean, this guy is like full on dressed like a cop. He's got the keys. He's got I think he's got a billy club, I want to say.
Yeah, like
I
he's
don't-
full on security. He's full on rent a
I
cop.
don't recall if he had a firearm or not, but he looks.
I don't remember.
He's a large black guy with, you know, shaved head. Like he looks serious business guy. Okay. So, and that's why what's coming up just made me laugh and laugh and laugh, and I had to keep rewinding it and watching it because anyway, so he's going through the school and inspecting, you know, doors and windows and shit, which again, no. And then he walks to the door that says basement access, which again, in a school, no, that just wouldn't, no. But it's ajar. The door is ajar.
Also, like we've talked about this before, and you just said it again. Like for one, basement access would not be right out like in the halls
No.
where, and it would literally be like in a locked like janitorial closet or something.
Yeah. And let's just say for a minute that it was, for whatever reason, out in the open.
Mhm.
It wouldn't have a giant sign on it that says basement access, come on down.
Right. And
No.
if it did have a sign on it that said basement access,
It would have 500 locks on it.
the door would be fucking locked. Yet somehow this fucking door is always open.
Always open. People just come and go from there. They go down there. Remember, they go down there and like smoke cigarettes and stuff.
Yes. Yes.
And there's supposed to be a boiler down there, and I'm like, but you know, and all these other chemicals, and they're just down there smoking cigarettes all the time.
Right.
But anyway, so the door's ajar. So of course, he's like, all right, security Bob is on the job, and he immediately goes down the stairs and is investigating, and he's got his flashlight and he's, you know, looking around. Instead of, I immediately thought, why didn't you just turn the fucking lights on when you got to the bottom of the stick? Because he walks right past the light switch,
Mhm.
and I go, well, why didn't, like, isn't that what you would do?
Yeah.
Or would you just go for your phone light and instead of just hitting the fucking lights in the anyway? So he's looking around with his flashlight and he hears something. And this is the part I loved. I'm 95% sure that the voice that comes out of this man is not his voice. Like this is ADR dialogue after the fact. Because he says, what is the exact phrase he says? I think he says, hello, is anyone there?
Mhm.
But it comes out, it sounds like Pee Wee Herman. Like, no joke. I want you to go back and check that part. It's fucking hilarious. It just caught me out of nowhere because I was sitting here like falling asleep. And then that happened. And I was like, what? Whoa, 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 whoa. And I went back and I'm looking at this guy and then I hear this voice and I'm like, no, that's definitely not his real voice. No, 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 no. So anyway, that happened and I watched it like 10 times in a row. And he continues walking around down there and he sees he can see kind of like a big ass hole in the wall behind these stacked up boxes and shit. So he moves these boxes and there's this big ass hole and he goes over there to it and he's like looking, starts to shine his light in there, and then all of this, it kind of leans into it, and all of a sudden, Mr. Whitmore comes up behind him and cracks him over the head with a fucking pickaxe, and just kind of like tosses him into the hole, into this tunnel hole, and Mr. Whitmore follows him in to said hole, and I'm like, okay, this is at least a 6 to 8 foot in diameter hole in this wall.
It's a big hole.
And it's a tunnel. It's what it is. It's tunneling, it's tunneling. Where is all the debris, the dirt, the rock, the cement, everything that would have been neat? Mr. Whitmore, if he's been the only one pickaxing at this thing, he's been doing this for at least 13 years to get to this point. So, but anyway, somehow it's not. Why don't you take us over from there, James?
But it's not really. So it's not really a tunnel, because remember. So
oh, it is. It's a total tunnel. Well, it goes down, and then it kind of becomes a tunnel, and it goes further down and like to the right, I guess.
Right, and into a whole nother room.
Yeah, into this other room that I'm like, where the fuck did this, which we'll see later, like, where did this fucking structure come from, Oh, God, I have so many. Anyway.
But even the way they film it later, and I don't know, maybe I'm misremembering. I don't remember it being, like, I remember, like, later in the episode, other characters going through that hole and then just kind of turning and being in that other room. I don't remember it.
Well, they don't really show. They show them go into the hole, tunnel, whatever the fuck you want to call it, and then they show them come out of this other kind of not nearly as big of a hole, but it's enough to stand up and walk through, and then they're in this huge, I don't know, room, which I'm like, how is this giant room attached underground to this school that no one knows? I don't know. It's so fucking dumb, but I digress. Go ahead, James. Take us to the next scene.
We cut back to Buffy's room, and she's climbing back in through a window after being out on the hunt with Angel, and as she comes in, she notices that Egbert is kind of shaking and vibrating. She walks over and she leans in close to watch Egbert as he's shaking, and then all of a sudden Egbert cracks open and this little purple.
I was waiting for this little thing to pop out with the top hat on and hello, honey, hello,
which would have been perfect because
fuck yeah, it would have been.
Well, at this time, Michigan J. Frog was the mascot for the WB.
Oh, that's right.
So that would have been perfect.
Yeah. And then that was just the end of the episode. Like it just ended right there.
Right. So yeah, this purple little like tentacle. It doesn't really have tentacles. It's like, hard to.
It's like shoestrings, but they have kind of like finger motions. That's the best way I can think to describe it.
Yeah.
Well, this version though looks completely different once you actually see it. It looks exactly like a face hugger from fucking Aliens.
It does have a resemblance to a face hugger, yes.
I mean, they clearly ripped that off.
So the egg cracks, it jumps out at Buffy. She ends up swatting it away. It runs around
screaming like a little girl. And I'm like, you're the fucking Slayer. You fight demons and you're scared. Like,
it runs around her room for a little while, and she's trying to find it.
And she picks up an iron.
She does. She picks up an iron while she's looking for it, and she can't find it, and it's scurrying about under her dresser and everything. And
what would you do in this situation, James? You personally?
Burn the fucking house down.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Burn the fucking house down and leave. Because if something jumps out of an egg looking like a face hugger from Aliens, the fucking house is getting burned down, and I'm leaving the zip code.
Yeah. If it doesn't manage to attach to my face and kill me,
house is getting burned down.
If I somehow manage to fight the Wish version of the face hugger,
the Wish version.
If I manage to keep it from attacking me and latching itself onto me for whatever its undoubtedly nefarious purposes may be, I exit the room. But as I'm doing so, I light a Zippo and
you carry it with you at all times.
And I toss it onto the ground.
Yeah. I'm closing the door behind me so it can't get out. I'm going to my shed and I'm getting my thing of gas. I'm fucking dousing the entire house with it. I'm setting it, and I'm not fucking around. I am burning this bitch to the ground.
Right.
Because
and then I'm blaming it on a faulty space heater and collecting insurance money.
Yes, exactly. And they're going to be like, but we found massive amounts of accelerant. And I'm going to say, well, that's because there was a fucking face hugger. So write my check, bitch.
I was going to say, and I would never speak of the strange creature that tried to kill me.
Yeah, but I just asked you that because I had a feeling you would say the exact same thing.
So she eventually puts the iron down and grabs a pair of scissors off of her dresser.
Very fucking large, menacing looking scissors.
And she's looking around for this little thing, and it scurries up the wall behind her, and her Slayer senses tingle, and she whips around and stabs it with the scissors against the wall, and it falls onto the ground, and she continues to stab it till it's dead. And then once it's good and dead, she picks up her phone and calls Willow.
And by the way, it's blood. Looks like purple Kool-Aid.
And I see. I got more Ivan Ooze from the Power Rangers movie than I did purple Kool-Aid.
Power Rangers wasn't a thing in my life, so I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm a tad bit older, so I think I was a little too old for it.
So you're never too old, Jeremy.
For Power Rangers?
Oh.
I remember the song.
Everyone
go mighty or
go Power Rangers.
There you go, Power Rangers. Da, 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 da. I remember the tune, I should say.
So Buffy calls Willow, and Willow picks up, and Buffy asks her.
She's like,
okay.
Bitch, it's 4:00 in the morning. Why are you calling me? Fuck. Some of us actually want to graduate high school. And she hangs up on her, and they're never friends again.
Right. And that's the end of Willow.
That's the end of their relationship.
Yeah. No. Buffy's freaking out. She's telling Willow to break her egg, and she tells her about what happened, and Willow's like, no. She's like, my egg's fine. Like everything's fine with my egg. Are you sure it's not something the Gorch brothers, planted for you? Or Buffy kind of calms down, and she's like, yeah, maybe. She's like, I'm sorry I woke you up. Go back to sleep. And they hang up, and we cut back to Willow after Buffy hangs up the phone, and she hangs up the phone, and we pan over to her egg, and we see that that her egg is split open, and the inside is gray, covered in like that grayish purplish blue slime, and the camera pulls in close to Willow's face, and she's just kind of staring off blankly into the distance. And we cut back to Buffy's room, and we get a glimpse of her clock, and it's like 2:45 in the morning, and the door opens, and it's Joyce, and she wants to know what's going on, and who was she talking to at this hour, and she sees that Buffy's dressed, and she's all like, "Where the fuck do you think you're going at this, this time of night?" And uh, Buffy tries to explain, and Joyce isn't having it, and she starts to tell her she's going to be grounded for the rest of her natural life, and that cuts to them
To Buffy just fucking repeatedly stabbing Joyce with those scissors, like, ground this, you dead bitch. And it's like, whoa. And
yeah,
I mean, just reporting what I saw.
it was a brutal.
It was a brutal murder.
So brutal.
I mean, you saw the gore and just fucking blood. Just, it's covered Buffy. It's, brain matter. Damn, she went to town.
It was like an Eli Roth film.
Yes, it was Hostel 2. Fucking Joyce is hanging from the ceiling. Fucking her blood is just pouring all over Buffy. Yeah.
Wow. There was a Hostel 2.
Yes, there was.
I think there was a third one too, wasn't there?
I don't think Eli Roth had anything to do with the third one, though.
Mm.
I think they just hired someone and said, make something really gory.
Probably.
You know how they do that.
Right. So we cut to the next morning, and we're in Joyce's Jeep, and she's driving Buffy to school, and she's giving her the rundown.
Still fucking like, this is what how many hours later do you think this has? This has to be like, okay, 2:45 in the morning. This is probably like 7:45 in the morning. So we're talking like 5 hours later, and she's still bitching Buffy out.
Right.
I'm like, God damn you, fucking bitch.
She's giving her the, excuse me, I'm sorry, giving her the rundown of. Thank you. Bye. No.
Bye. Fuck the rest of this episode. It's not worth hanging around for.
Yeah, she's giving her the rundown on what being grounded for life means. No after school socializing, no bronze, none of that kind of stuff.
And she's like, what about being a street walking whore, though? Can I still do that? And Joyce is like, well, yeah, we need the dough, ho. And
so Joyce, tells her school's over at 2:30. I want you at the library by 2:33, and I want you to stay there until I pick you up at 5:30.
Okay, wait. When you were in high school, when did school end?
Not fucking 2:30, dude.
Not fucking 2:30. Fuck, I mean, I need to move to California, apparently.
Right.
Get out of school. They go at like 8:30 and get out at like 2:30. And they spend most of the day just hanging out in the library with the librarian. So,
yeah.
Shit.
Well, California is real chill.
California school is fucking dope, son.
Yeah, no, like I wasn't getting home till damn near 4 o'clock after.
Or like almost 4 o'clock. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
2:30.
Right.
Like fuck, and they get an outdoor fucking place to hang out, like just apparently whenever they want.
Right. Right.
I mean, they get a lounge right in the middle of the fucking halls with like couches and shit.
Right.
Man.
Sunnydale
doesn't seem too bad all of a sudden.
No. Where was I? Oh, so Buffy gets out of the car and Joyce leaves, and Buffy turns around and flips her the double bird as she's driving away.
And she's like, I'll kill you again later, bitch.
So Buffy spots Cordelia and asks Cordelia if she noticed anything weird about her egg, and Cordelia's like, no, you crazy bitch, it's an egg.
She's like, you mean the part where it's attached itself to me and is now controlling me? No, right. I never noticed that. Weirdo.
So Cordelia ends up leaving, and Willow finds Buffy, and then we cut to Xander, who's eating a candy bar. And
is that okay? I thought it was supposed to be like one of those because he says, oh, it tastes like cardboard. I was thinking it was one of those like what are those things called? They're like kind of like those health breakfast bar things that basically do kind of taste like cardboard. That's what I thought.
Oh, I don't know if those were around in '98.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't know.
I can't
But-
recall. Too many drugs.
I can't recall. Not enough drugs.
Yeah. Apparently, it's just being old. Can't recall.
So he's, as you said, he's unsatisfied with what he's eating, and he reaches into his bag and pulls out his egg, and
He's like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna fail this project because I'm so hungry. I need to eat my boiled egg."
right. So he pulls it out and taps it on the
He literally says, "A man's got to eat."
yeah.
And I'm like, "Okay."
He taps it on the cement wall that he's sitting on, and we cut back to Buffy and Willow walking across the quad to him, and Cordelia catches up to them, and she's looking through a book, and Willow asks if there was any more egg activity last night, and Buffy says no, and
Egg activity.
and everyone else's egg seems normal, and Xander, they get to Xander, and he asks if she brought the thing that attacked her, and Buffy says, yeah, Giles wants to see it, and Willow says, well, yeah, bring it to the science lab, and I'll get Giles, and we'll analyze it. And the camera pans around to Willow's back as Buffy's, saying like, great, always a, what does she say? A day without an autopsy is like a day without sunshine, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
And as she's saying that, we see that one of the hatchlings has attached itself to Willow's lower back under her shirt. And
she's also wearing a shirt that's very short, just in the back.
And we cut back to Xander, and he gives the girls a nod as he sees them coming, and he holds up the egg, getting ready to take a bite, and he notices the purplish blue-gray creature inside, and dead, obviously, from having been boiled, and he screams and tosses it away from him.
Which, if you go to eat a boiled egg, do you only shell half of it and then eat the other half while the
I don't like boiled eggs, so I wouldn't do it at all. But I've never seen anyone shell half of a boiled egg.
Yeah, okay. I just didn't know if that was me or what, but go ahead. I'm sorry. I did not.
Do you de-shell your entire hard-boiled egg when you eat them?
Well, yeah, because I like to pop the whole egg into my mouth at one time.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. You're nasty. You're going to hell.
We pick up in the science lab, and the hatchlings laid out on a dissection tray, and Xander and Buffy are arguing about who's going to dissect it, and Xander says, you're the slayer, you should dissect it, and Xander's like, no, I slayed, my work's done. And
which technically, well, they're talking about the one Buffy killed. I was just going to say, technically, he slayed the other one because he boiled it.
Right.
So I'd be like, nope, I slayed this one.
So Willow eventually takes the scalpel and starts the dissection, and the camera cuts to Cordelia, to her backpack, which is a bear, and the bear's
a live literal
it's a live bear just strapped to her back,
and it's like it's trying to get free. It's like chewing off its own arm to get
so angry. It's so fucking mad.
It's clawing at everybody that come near it.
So we see one of the bear's eyes pop out, and
that's how mad it is.
And one of those tendril things comes out of the bear's eye, and then the other eye pops off, and another tentacle emerges, and Xander makes a comment about, like, well, I guess we know what happened to Mr. Whitmore, and Cordelia's like, he saw this and ran away, and Buffy's like, best case scenario. And then Willow says, it's possible that Mr. Whitmore wasn't harmed. Maybe the offspring simply used him to return to the mother Bozar. And Cordelia leans over to pick something up, and Xander's like maybe he what? And Buffy's like, what is a Bozar? And at that point, Cordelia hits Buffy across the face with some random
It
fucking
looked
bar.
like a table leg.
Like,
Literally.
And knocks her out, and Willow picks up a microscope and jacks Xander over the head with it.
Fucking, she had a blackjack in her back pocket, and she just fucking smokes him with it.
It's a microscope. She clocks him right over the noggin with a fucking microscope.
Which would probably put him in the fucking ICU, to be honest.
Right. Yeah. So we cut to the utility closet, and we see Willow and Xander dragging Cordy in, and they move out of the way, and there's two random students dragging Buffy, and they toss her in there as well, and they close the door and leave, and we cut to the groundskeeper's shed, and the doors open, and people start filing in and grabbing tools.
Stupid shit. They're literally grabbing. No. Several of them grab gardening hose,
shovels, axes.
and for what they're going to be using them for, I'm like, bullshit.
And we cut back to the hall outside the basement door, and these people that were just grabbing all those tools filed down into the basement and through the boiler room and through the hole in the wall, and they follow that little tunnel down, and we see Mr. Whitmore standing there keeping guard at the hole.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong. Other than maybe one of the last couple of scenes, Mr. Whitmore just fucking vanishes at this point. We never see him again.
Yeah, I don't think we see him anymore after
Ever.
this.
No explanation, no Mr. nothing.
And then we cut back to the library, and Joyce comes in, and what's happening there, Jeremy?
Well, she's got a lot of fucking wounds and shit from when Buffy was fucking murdering her earlier.
When
she's
Buffy
covered in gauze and bandages.
Yeah, so I'm surprised she's alive.
Yeah, she's barely alive, but she's there to pick up Buffy.
Right.
Because it's apparently 5:30. And instead she finds Giles, who's there alone, and he tells her that Buffy hasn't come in all day. And of course, Joyce immediately gets pissy about that because she told her, and you know all the bullshit. She starts venting to Giles and about what a burden children are. She's like, oh, I shouldn't say that, but I actually mean that. And he's like, oh, you're a bitch. And and then he says even though he's not a father, he kind of feels like one working there at the school. And Joyce says something about Buffy being irresponsible, and Giles kind of defends her. And
Giles doesn't kind of defend her. He comes across that card catalog and latches onto Joyce's neck and just strangles the fucking life out of her while he's yelling at the top of his lungs, "Don't speak ill of my slayer."
You can literally see that bone in her throat fucking snap as he's thumbing it in there. Yeah.
Yep.
So then he revives her in order to finish the scene, and he says, what was that? Did you hear that? And she turns around and she's like, oh, it's probably the janitor. Meanwhile, he opens a drawer and pulls out one of the face huggers and sticks it on her back, and she's like, bah! And falls forward, and that's the end of that scene. Now, something I wanted to bring up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
At the very beginning of that scene, as she's walking into the library, the camera pans by the sign that he keeps there in the library, and I took note of what it said. Would you like to know what the sign said, James?
Not really, but I bet you're going to tell me anyway.
All right. Well, we'll skip ahead to the next scene.
No, yes.
So
yeah, tell me.
it says Sunnydale High School Library on the first line. Then it says website coming. Then under that, and you're going to have to explain this to me, it says bus brats talk. I'm just reporting the news. It literally says bus, next word, brats, next word, talk.
I don't know.
Okay, that's what I thought. And then the coup de grace, underneath that, it says hours, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay.
So they have longer hours than an actual public library in your town would have. I want to know which students are coming to get a book out of the school library at like 7 p.m.
I don't know. I'm going to have to go back and look at that. You're sure it says bus?
I promise.
Brats?
Bus brats talk.
I'm going to have to go back and look.
I don't know if that was some kind of reference that one of the set designers was like he, you know, and I paints by quickly. You just hit pause when it gets centered on it, because it stops and centers on it for just a split second, and hit pause, and then you can read everything on it.
I would have to. I'm going to go back and check to make sure it says what you say it says.
Okay.
And if it does, then I would have to imagine that it was someone in the art department was like, this will be funny and no one's ever going to notice it.
Yeah. But me being who I am, I noticed it.
Well, good for you.
I know. I deserve something for that.
You want me to send you a Buffy lanyard?
Yes, I'd like, and I'll just wear it randomly all day, every day. Nothing will even be on it or anything. Anyway, so once Joyce is under the control of the creature, the two of them walk out of the hallway, joining a stream. Apparently, like everyone in the school at this point is now under the control of one of these creatures, except conspicuously Principal Snyder, who's nowhere in this episode. He's on vacation. So we cut back to the closet where Buffy and Xander have been locked up, and Buffy regains consciousness and just slapping the shit out of Xander, like, wake the fuck up, pussy boy. And so he comes to, and he's like, oh, it was much better when Cordy brought me in here earlier. And Buffy's like, what? And he's like, oh, nothing. She's like, oh, I get it. You guys are fucking in the closets now. That explains everything. Anyway, she turns on the light.
Just to be clear, she doesn't say that. They're still completely in the dark about Cordelia and Xander's relationship.
Well, I would think whatever audience we have would know my stupidity.
Would know that. That's true. That's true.
So where did I leave off? Anyway, they theorized that whatever got Willow and Cordy has to do with these eggs and this hatchling situation, and Xander questions why he and Buffy weren't killed. But then they look down and they see two of those eggs. They're wobbling. They're getting ready to hatch, and they're like, oh, because they wanted to turn them into some mindless workers. So she grabs a big heavy toolbox off the shelf and squishes those fuckers. And then Slayer kicks the balsa wood door, and knocks it completely off the fucking hinges. And as they walk out, someone comes around the corner with a flamethrower and just sets them both on fire. They're just screaming like, ah! They're just burning, dude. And they can't do anything but fall down and burn to death. Or what might have happened is they headed to the library and looking for Giles, but nobody's there. And Xander remembers what Willow had. They're trying to figure out what was that word Willow used. Want to return to the what? And then they realize Bezor, whatever. And they're like, well, let's look it up. And they're like, in what? And Buffy's like, I don't know, like a book. And they're like, what book? And they happen to look over on the library countertop, and there's a book open up to the exact page that they needed.
I groaned so hard
I
at
know.
this. Like, oh, so Giles just happened to find exactly what they needed
As
before
one
he got
apparently attached to
right
him. Yeah.
before he got taken over by one of these things.
And the thing that took him over didn't think to say, hold it, let's close this. Let's burn
Right.
this, in fact.
Right.
No, we'll just leave it out there. Shouldn't be a problem. So yeah, they see what's going on now. It's this huge fucking creature with these tentacles, and it's laying eggs, and they're gonna hatch, and so other people have to come, and we don't really get told. That's the problem. Like, what is the end game here? This thing's having a bunch of eggs, so some of them are gonna hatch and take over people, so they can come and help collect the other eggs. And then the grand scheme is nobody knows because it's never said. So that's it, folks. That's all we know. That's all we can tell you, and we don't find anything else out by the end of the episode. So Xander looks down and sees an eggshell that's broken, and realizes that Giles has probably been taken over too. Obviously. Giles and Joyce and all those other fucking zombies they're tunneling into an underground room, into that room through the hole, through the tunnel and all that, and they join the rest, like, of apparently the entire fucking high school's population. There's like a lunch lady with a cigarette hanging out of her mouth, and she's fucking working at it and shit. And Willow and Cordelia are there. Everyone's there, and they're hard at work doing nothing, because if you watch closely, like, they're like barely clinking this concrete floor with these gardening hose. It's so dumb. It is so dumb.
I watched that and I was like, what? Like, they're not even with the pickaxe, they're not hitting anything hard enough to do any damage, let alone hitting it with a fucking gardening hoe.
And even with a pickaxe, that looked like at least, I don't know, 10 to 12 inch thick concrete.
Oh yeah.
That would take fucking weeks to even get near like what they're doing in no time at all. Like if they were all down there with a bunch of pneumatic fucking power hammers and shit, I'd be like, okay, that makes sense, you know. They're
right.
literally, most of them literally have shovels and gardening hose.
Yeah.
So I'm like, gonna go with no on that. So anyway, so there's people digging, and you see that they've exposed most of this giant version of these tentacled creatures. It's the mommy, apparently, and they're continuing to, expose it, get it unburied, and there's other people who are collecting more eggs that just happen to look exactly like chicken eggs. I mean, exactly. Mm-hmm. And they're putting them into these crates, which I'm like, okay, what's our end game here? We're going to ship these all around the world and turn everyone into mindless zombies, something, anything? Can we get anything? No, we don't. We don't get anything. Nope. Back to the library, Buffy's reading up about the Bezor, whatever, and tells Xander what she's figured out, and it's an extremely ancient creature that hibernates underground and lays its eggs. Her offspring then attach themselves to hosts through neural clamping and take over their motor functions. And that's it. Again, there's no why. There's no, what's going to happen next? Nothing. That's it. And they realize, well, if everybody who's been taken over by one of these is it's being controlled by the mommy, the mother in the ground, then we got to figure out what it wants. And I'm like, I don't know, a fucking sandwich? What? Kill the fucking thing. What do you mean what it wants? Get a big ass fucking axe, which there's a bunch of in the locked up fucking book cage. Get a big ass axe, go down there and kill the fucking thing, No, we need to figure out what it wants, Buffy. Maybe we can negotiate. Anyway, so they hear someone screaming bloody murder from like outside in the hallway. And they go out there and it's Goofy Jonathan. And apparently one was attempting to attach itself to him, and then by the time they got there it had, and they're like, "What's wrong?" And he's like, "Nothing, fuckheads. Fuck off." And he does say that, and he just turns around and walks away, and they're like, "Oh yeah, he's one of them." So they decide to just follow him so they can figure out where this thing is. And they follow him all the way there, into the basement, through the fucking tunnel hole, into this weird fucking room. And which again, what is this room? Why does it exist? Who fucking knows? So he leads him in there, and Xander's like, be careful, and then he fucking trips and falls right behind her, of course. And they kind of sneak up unnoticed because all these mindless idiots are working on concrete with their garden hose. They're too busy. And so they pretty much, this is when they finally realize, oh, to end all this, we're going to need to kill that big thing because they see it. And I'm like, yeah, duh. And Xander volunteers to go try to figure out, like, get rid of these eggs or what have you. And she's like, okay, I'll go back and get a weapon. You do your Xander thing, which is basically get caught and knocked out or something, whatever. So he's like, Roger that. So she heads back into the little utility room on the other side of the tunnel, and she's looking for a weapon. And she finds a metal pole. And just then, here's the Gorch brothers. And they're being Gorchy. And so they start fisticuffing, and they end up going through the hole and the tunnel and back into this fucking room. And they're fighting, and Willow, who's under control of one of these things, looks up and sees what's going on. And she's like, kill them. And then, of course, all the mindless idiots start coming after Buffy, and Lyle, the vampire hillbilly's like, what the fuck is going on here? And so then him and Buffy are both fighting people off, but then he'll attack her randomly, and she's like, the fuck, bro, let's one thing at a time here. And he's a dumb hillbilly, so all kinds of chaos going on there. Xander, meanwhile, is still following Cordelia and this other dude who are carrying these crates of these perfectly resembling chicken eggs, and into the sewer tunnel. And he grabs the kid and slams him into the wall, knocks him out, and then fucking Cordelia hits him in the same spot where he had been cracked with the fucking microscope earlier. And he's like, that's my bump. And he just straight fucking houses Cordelia and knocks her the fuck out. And so that was kind of funny, I felt.
As Nicholas Brendan's practice for the future.
Right. Damn. And then back in the main room with the workers, they can't beat Lyle and Buffy, so they just kind of go back to their work. And then Tector recovers himself and comes down into the room, and he's ready to fight. And he sees the big Bazor, and he's like, ooh, what the fuck? He's like intrigued, and he goes right up to it, and he's smiling, looking down at it, and he's like, hello there. And it finally opens up its big old nasty eyeball, shoots out a tentacle, wraps it around his fucking neck, and pulls him down, which I guess you're supposed to assume it eats him because he's like gone forever. And Lyle's like, no, that's my fucking, who knows what he is, his brother or something.
It's his brother.
Who knows what he really is,
It's his brother.
And about that time, it shoots its tentacles up and grabs Buffy's legs, and it's pulling her. It drags her in, and she reaches up and grabs a pickaxe just in the nick of time.
But how did the pickaxe get there?
I don't recall, and I don't really care.
Joyce dropped it after she tried to kill Buffy with it.
Joyce tried to hit Buffy with it, and then Buffy kicked Joyce's head completely off of her body. and Joyce is now dead again for the fourth time.
You know, our goal for next week's episode is to not do these outrageous uh uh things.
Well, I can tell you right now that's not ever going to happen. I could never get through a whole episode without saying something stupid and outrageous. So anyway, she gets drugged down and with the pickaxe, and you hear all this commotion and gurgling and weird creature noises, and then all of a sudden you see its eyes shut, and it's just like, "Bruh." And then you see fucking Buffy climbs up out of there, and she's covered from head to toe in this fucking like purple goo, and she's got the pickaxe still, and she looks at old Lyle Buttfuckus, and he sees her. He sees her, and he's like, all right, it's over, and he tips his hat to her, and he runs away, never to be seen again. And then we cut outside, and now all the police and the fire and
So we should also mention that when the mother Bowser died, we saw all the babies die,
all the
and
babies died, and they fell off the host, and then the hosts all kind of fell over, and sorry, my bad. And then we, now all the cops and fire and everybody are there, and Giles is kind of helping, ushering everyone out, and he's like, it was a gas leak. Everybody's kind of lost their memory and blah blah blah. I have a clip. We'll just go ahead and play this little bit here.
Play it for me.
It was a gas leak, everyone. But just get some air and good night's rest. You'll be fine. These gas things will happen. What was it really?
Stick with the gas thing. I'll fill you in tomorrow.
Right.
How you guys doing?
Did I really hit you?
You knocked me out.
Did I hit you?
Yes, everyone hit me.
Good. Well, I don't mean good because I hate you, but I didn't want to be left out.
Cordy never wants to be left out. So, so she's, Buffy comes out then from the school, and she runs into her mom, and she's like, she's confused, but otherwise she says she feels all right, and she's relieved that Buffy's okay, but mad that Buffy wasn't in the library like she was supposed to be. I'm like, really, bitch? Really? And Buffy's like, okay. And Buffy's like, you got to learn responsibility and once and for all. And she's like, now you're confined to your room except for when you have to go to school or go to the bathroom. And I'm like, fucking cunt. Somebody kill this bitch, please. And of course, that night, Buffy's making out with Angel. He's come to her house, and they're at the window, and she's got the window open, and they're making out. And her mom hollers out, it's time to go to bed. And Buffy says, yeah, just a second. And Angel pulls away, and he's scared, that she's going to get in trouble. And she's like, no, I'm not breaking any rules. I've not left my room. And she's like, besides, I've earned this. And they continue sucking face, and she's like, and don't worry, I'm gonna kill her tomorrow. And that's the end of the episode. No, that really is the end of the episode.
It is the end of the episode.
So
Buffy hanging out her bedroom window, smooching with Angel. So
James, how many Wish.com face huggers would you give this episode?
I'm going to give this episode 2 Wish.com face huggers.
Okay.
It wasn't terrible like you might expect a 2-episode would be, but it just wasn't that great. I'll go to a situation I like to refer to frequently. If I was flipping through channels and I saw that Buffy was on, and then I turned it there and I saw that it was this episode, I would probably turn the channel and find something else.
I would kill myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's harsh. So yeah, it's got it's got its moments where it's funny, and whatnot. Some outstanding bits and pieces, but overall, I I can leave this episode behind, not think twice about it.
Yeah.
Jeremy,
Yes.
how many prehistoric parasites do you give this episode?
Well, James, I'm going to do something I've never done before.
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
going to give it a 0.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
how much I disliked it. And not because it didn't have potential to be good. I'm
Right.
giving it a 0 because it's a completely unfinished script and a completely unfinished story. It is obvious that something happened, and for whatever reason they just skipped over we never got answers to anything. Mr. Whitmore just disappeared from the entire story. There's never like an explanation. Oh, Mr. Whitmore, um, he accidentally got these eggs that were. Where did the original eggs come from? How did he come across them?
Right.
Did he accidentally pass them out to the kids, or was that all on purpose? Was he working with the Bazor? What was the Bazor's grand scheme? Nothing. It was a fucking bullshit episode that they didn't finish and still filmed it for some reason. And I can't respect something that was just clearly, obviously, like, it's not like it was just bad. Like, I can respect an episode I'll give it a 1 at least if it's just a bad, boring, shitty episode. This was just not an episode. This was bullshit, unfinished garbage.
Right.
And yeah, it gets nothing. It gets a 0. And I am not ashamed to say it.
Hey, you do you, boo boo.
Okay.
How about a little monsterology?
Okay. Let's do that.
So obviously the big one, you and I both alluded to it earlier on. I think it takes a lot of influence from um, Alien, came out in 1979. But I think there's also a lot of influence from the Puppet Masters, a 1994 movie starring Donald Sutherland. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Oh yeah.
It's about aliens who try to take over the world by mind controlling people.
How about
That
Invasion of
was
the Body Snatchers?
I was just gonna say Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which has been remade numerous times.
Yeah.
One of them with Donald Sutherland
Yeah.
also.
Yep.
Um,
And a
so
little bit of I found a little bit of the Thing in this as well, to an extent.
yeah, I thought that too. I didn't put it down because I didn't feel like it pulled that much from the Thing, but yeah,
Just kind of some overarching basic
right.
philosophies, but like I said, this could have been a good episode. But it was just, and the fact that they used like regular eggs, just regular old
Right.
chicken eggs, and I was like,
Right.
they cut every corner you could cut. It don't.
Right. In reference to the movie The Puppet Masters, I don't know if you've read it, but there is a novel that movie was based on, by what's the guy's name? Robert Heinlein.
Hmm.
I don't know if you're much of a reader, but if you can find it, you should read it. It's actually
I
it's
can't
really
read
good.
the words as.
Well, you are from Indiana, so.
Wow, that's it. All right, folks, it's been nice. We're
No, it's a really good novel. If you're a fan of the movie, The Puppet Masters, you should check it out.
okay. No one cares. Go ahead.
Our body count for this episode is uh 5. 5. We've got the Bozar egg that Xander boiled,
Oh, we're gonna count those as bodies.
the Bozar baby that Buffy stabbed,
Okay.
2 Bozar eggs squished by the toolbox by Buffy,
Okay.
and Tector Gorch eaten by the mother Bozar and the mother Bozar.
Well, then what about all the Bozars that fall off the people and die at the end?
It's funny you say that because right here in my notes, as an addendum, I have also all the Bozar babies.
I don't believe you.
It's right here. It's right here. Right here.
Fine.
Um,
How about some goof 'em ups and oopsies?
it's not time for goof 'em ups and oopsies yet.
Oh,
But if you want to skip to that, we can.
no. No. I thought
Uh,
that was next for some reason.
how about some behind the scenes instead?
Behind this, okay, yes, behind the scenes, yes.
So our first behind the scenes is something we alluded to earlier. I alluded to earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Lyle and Tector Gorch were
Mhm.
characters in the 1969 film The Wild Bunch.
Not familiar with it.
Star Ernest Borgnine and William Holden. One of the great westerns. I highly recommend it. Sam
So
Peckinpah.
so the writer had a hard on for that movie and decided to name these two.
The writer, yes, Marty Noxon. Marty Noxon probably had a hard on for Sam Peckinpah.
Marty Noxon has written some good shit for this show and in the future. This was horse shit. I would love to. Is Marty Noxon a female or a male?
She's a female.
She is a female. I would love to speak to her and tell her in no uncertain terms that she should be ashamed that this exists and should turn in her writing guild membership card.
Okay. Well.
Okay.
This is the first time it's stated in continuity that Willow is Jewish.
Yes, I forgot to bring that up. I think I had that scene too, and I forgot to bring it up because he says they're Buffy when they're first giving Buffy her egg and telling her, and he's like, "Well, give it. You're supposed to raise it and teach it Christian values." And Willow says, well, "Mine's Jewish," and he goes, "Well, then teach it the dreidel song."
Yes.
And Willow's like, "Hey, that's racist." But
yes. Our bronze band this week.
Yeah, who was it?
It was nobody because we weren't at the bronze again.
Yes, we were not at the bronze again. But it's
disappointing.
Been a while since we've been at the bronze. Several episodes.
It's been a while.
Been a while.
Our music this week.
Mm-hmm.
We had two pieces from famous composer Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart.
Okay.
Ein klein,
one of them.
Ein klein Nachtmusik.
Eins zwei Geseffe.
And Die Zauberflöte, which translates to Overture to the Magic Flute.
Easy for you to say.
We also had Letters to Cleo, Cruel to Be Kind.
That's probably like one of the biggest bands they've ever had on this show so far. They were pretty damn big in the 90s.
Yeah. And one original piece composed by show composers Sean Clement and Sean Murray, Cordelia's Bear.
Oh, did they play that during that scene?
Yeah, that would have been the music that was playing during that.
That was scene. When she had the literal bear strapped to her back.
Yes. And the bloodbath that ensued.
Right.
Goof 'em ups and oopsies.
Oh, it's time for that.
I actually don't have anything. I don't know if you.
I would say the only one that sign. You've got to look into that sign and verify that I'm not bullshitting you.
Yeah, I will.
Hang on, I wrote it down. I forget what it said again. Bus Brats Talk.
So
or was it Brats Bus Talk?
I'll look into it.
It's Bus Brats Talk.
Okay, I'll look, but
I am so not bullshitting you, James.
Yeah, I would. If it does say that, I would say it's got to be like set designer was like, no one's ever gonna see this.
And they had no idea that an OCD person like me was gonna, all these years later, was gonna be like, what?
What does that sign say?
When it went by the sign, I was like, whoa, there was a lot of writing on that. So I went back and then I paused it and I was like, okay, and I was like, Bus Brats Talk. What the fuck does that even mean?
Yeah, I must have been. I don't remember exactly what I was doing while I was watching the episode.
It's right when Joyce walks in to pick up Buffy and no one's there. It's right then. So
because usually when they pan by banners and signs and stuff like that, I usually do try and stop just to see what it
I
says.
always
But yeah. So
just
that's
like
it.
I found the thousands of cigarette butts in Angel's ashtray, and it was hilarious.
Yeah. So that
heavy smoker.
that wraps us up for this week. Any final thoughts, Jeremy?
No, it's a letdown because, listen, like I said, there's bad episodes. I can live with that. But ones that are just clearly unfinished, and they didn't even do anything in the filming of the episode to try to even generically finish it. You know what I mean? Like close up some hole. They just didn't care. They were like, fuck it. As long as it's Buffy, the kids will be happy. And we probably were back then, but now looking back on it, I'm like, well, that's horse shit. Like none of this made any sense, and there was zero closure. So there's no point that this episode even exists.
Right.
So that's my closing thought. How about you, James?
No, like I said before, it's a letdown of an episode. I don't think it's a terrible episode. It's just not a good episode. So it's definitely one I would pass. If I came across it while scrolling through channels. Unlike you, I just think it was a poor script. I don't think it was unfinished as far as like deliberately unfinished, or they were halfway through and got sidetracked or something. I just think it was a bad script.
I'm just trying to give them the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, it was unfinished. They got rushed. They weren't able to, because if that was finished, fuck you, Marty Noxon. Fuck you. you know.
So yeah, that's all I have.
All righty. Well, let's just do this quick again. And where can they get all of our contact and social media info at, James? There's one really easy place.
There is one website. If they go to buffyrevisited.com, they will find links to all our socials. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter.
Including our YouPorn accounts?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Share with us.
Yeah. That's a hidden link on buffyrevisited.com. You kind of got to look around for it.
Yeah.
The reward, if you find it, is a 30-minute video of Jeremy and I just going to town on each other.
Just our nipples too. Nipple on nipple action. Big hairy nipples just fucking like. Wow. That's the prize, guys.
Yeah, buffyrevisited.com. You'll find links to all our socials, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and a link to our email address, which is buffyrevisited@gmail.com. Please reach out to us. We would love to discuss the show with you guys. And that's it.
That's it. All right. Well, thank you for listening this week. We're sorry we're utterly insane, but we can't help it. Join us next week where we will be backstroking into season 2, episode 13, Surprise. And all that being said, I have been one of your hosts. I am Jerome.
I'm your other host, Jomez.
Ta-ta.